Let's talk about the tow control arms. So you can see that I've actually installed the sleeves in them now. This was, I tried doing this with just a threaded bar and an extraction tool. It really wasn't on. So I purchased this press from Sealy. I think it cost me about £150 delivered. I think that's right. The press is okay. I'm a bit disappointed with the quality, actually. Made in the UK, you would think we'd be able to get our engineering right, but the packaging, you can see here, was really bad. It was all falling out of the packaging. And in fact, I ordered one from one supplier, and apparently the courier returned it back to the supplier, I guess because it all fell out of the packaging. And so I waited for ages and nothing happened, so I ordered another one from another company and it arrived, but the packaging was totally smashed. This strut bar here, the bar you see there in red that I haven't installed, is supposed to go across the base of the press, across here, but it's actually too short. So I'm going to have to find some washers to pack it out to fit it. But the rest of it's fairly sturdy, as you can see. Now, as a press, in terms of working, it works fine. It's good, and it's done a great job of pressing these in. The only thing I would say is a couple of things. The first one is, oops. The first thing to say is that I had this metal sleeve made. I actually made one up in plastic first, which you can see there, and then I took it to a local engineering company and had them made this. It wasn't cheap, it cost me 50 quid, which was a bit more than I'd really bargained for, but I suppose in terms of it was machine time, you know, it was time in a workshop. They're not making a large number of them, it's just a one-off piece, so I suppose it's not that surprising, but it was a bit more than I expected. I looked all over the internet to try and find something suitable. I could not find anything else suitable. Anyway, the purpose of that is to go in here so you can do that. And in that way, I was able to press the sleeve into place. The only trouble was that it actually pressed into place slightly lopsided in the actually in the arm, in this in the tow control arm. So what I then did was I actually pressed the sleeve too far through the arm so that it was a lot lower, and then I flipped the arm over, put it back in there, and then pressed the sleeve back into place, and it actually came through correctly, and it came through square on the arm. So all in all, installing these pieces has been a real nightmare. So I've still got the rubber bushes to put in, but obviously that's a much easier job. Now the next thing I've got to do is this, which I think is called the what's this called? The traction strut. I think that's what it's called. And I've got to put bushes in that. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, but I probably will do it with this press. Maybe using this sleeve, maybe not. But somehow I'll get them into here. So that's the next job. Now I have all the sleeves in the remaining control arms. All I need to do now is install the bushes. But I have to say that because some of them are symmetric, which are obviously easy to fix, but some of them are the sort where they've got a curved inner sleeve. The inner sleeve has a curved end at one end, and it's turning into a bit of a 3D jigsaw, and I'm thinking that to make sure I get this right, I think I'm going to have to get this subframe down onto the floor and start to fit the arms as I'm fitting the bushes so that I don't do it wrong, because I've got left and right, which are different. I've got top and bottom. I've got, you know, there's so many different dimensions to this that I think I'm going to have to get the thing down and make sure that I put it all back together correctly. That was a very worthwhile exercise actually, because now I'm beginning to realise where things go. So the traction strut goes in there, and the thing that was slightly concerning me was that I thought the caster control arm, which attaches just here, I couldn't figure out why this didn't have a curved sort of concave surface, but the reason is because you don't put one of those curved bushes on there. It's got the ordinary flat bushes both ends, and it's the traction strut that uses the remaining curved bush in this. You can see that slightly concave there, and I've only got one pair. These are the ones with the curved ends, as you can see, and I've only got one pair of those left, so that's obviously for the traction strut. Well, it's all looking really good. All of the control arms are on this right side now, and I've bolted everything up just with the old bolts for the moment, just for a trial. None of the arms are at any sort of weird angles, and I can't see any stress on any of the bushes or the spherical joints, so it looks to me as though I've done it correctly, which quite honestly is a surprise to me. It really is, but that does look okay. Something worth pointing out is these bushes here, where the curved part is against the hub carrier. You notice that the bush polymer parts are asymmetric, so you've got this squared off wider piece of bush this side, and you've got the more narrow piece of bush with a slight curve on it the other side, and it's the narrow side that seems to go against the carrier and on the same side as the curve in the bush. And if you look at this one here, that's swapped around, same arrangement. Other than that, the actual sleeves are symmetric in all cases. So where I've put the sleeves in, there's the same amount pushing out each side. The one place where it's not symmetric is on this lower ball joint, and you can see that one side of it sticks out, whereas the other side is slightly submerged below the surface of the casting, and that seems to be the way that seems to be correct, because that's an example. This one here is an example of the bush, the old one, and you can see that if you look at the rust stain, you can see that the top part was definitely sticking out a fair way, and it's not the curved edge, it's the flat edge side that has the bit sticking out. And I tell you how I confirmed it. My next door neighbour has got a slightly later E87, and I crawled under her car and had a look, and this is definitely set right. But if you remember back to when I inserted that spherical joint in into the hub carrier, one thing I discovered was the aftermarket one was 1 mil narrower than the original. But if you look at that video, you'll see what I did to adjust for that fact. I've got a choice now. I can either reassemble the other side, which I should perhaps do just to be doubly sure and check out that everything works okay on this side before I start to replace all the bolts with the new ones and then torque them up. I've got all the torque settings, and I'll share those somehow on my YouTube channel. I'll probably put them in the notes for the video. There's also the bolts, these bolts, like these ones here and several of the bolts, the direction of the bolt head is actually given in the by BMW. So some of them say the bolt head should face towards the front, and some say the bolt heads should face towards the rear. So I can also include that in the instructions that I share. Thought it was going too well. So this bottom joint, I said that it was 1 mil too narrow, and now looking, so I've pulled the bolt out so you can see the gap. You see the gap there? I don't really want to pull this steel across to compress it onto that. I think that's too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a small, or a narrow, not small, it's quite big, but I'm going to put a washer down the side of it. It seems a bit of a bodge, but I really don't want to have to take all this apart again, and the joint's fine in terms of the way it operates, and making a decision about which side to put the washer. Should I put it this side or should I put it the other side? I've basically just gone on where it's naturally fallen, and it's falling that way, so I'm just going to plug this gap, if you like, with a washer. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. As you can see, the washer's taken up the gap, and we can now bolt down onto that. That's the other side done. So it all seems to work. Obviously the drive shafts aren't in, the diff's not in, and anyway I've got to put all new bolts through. I seem to have lost a couple of bolts, so I did use a couple of new ones, but yeah, I haven't tightened them up and torqued them, so if they're stretch bolts they should be fine. And that's it. I can't believe it. It's really good to see it in this state, actually. And I'll be really happy once I get the diff in and get the drive shafts in and everything.